The task's quick completion left Zhao Yu surprised. However, he remembered his second objective for venturing out, which was to find food. Glancing at the semi-underground entrance of the internet cafe, Zhao Yu figured that such places might have some snacks stored inside. Thus, he walked in, intending to search the place. Being underground with no electricity, the internet cafe was pitch dark. Using the faint moonlight seeping in from the entrance, Zhao Yu squinted to observe the interior of the cafe. Soon, he found the bar counter where snacks were typically stored. Adjacent to the counter was a small room, seemingly dedicated to selling snacks. Zhao Yu silently hoped there'd be something edible inside. The shelves behind it had little of value except for a few decorative figurines. Opening the cash register, he found scattered bills left behind. In this post-apocalyptic world, money was worthless. Zhao Yu gave up the idea of searching the counter further and headed to the adjacent room. As he stepped in, he was hit with a peculiar stench. What's that smell? Almost immediately, he spotted several skeletonized corpses on the floor. On the shelves, numerous unopened packaged snacks remained. Food. Zhao Yu was about to collect the food when a faint voice echoed from one side. Don't move. Halting in his tracks, Zhao Yu slowly turned to see a figure, almost blending with the shadows, holding a gun. Cold sweat dripped down his face, and he remained motionless. He even hesitated to raise his hands, fearing a misunderstanding. Who are you? The voice from the shadows sounded again, a slightly hoarse female tone. A woman? Only now did Zhao Yu realize that the person in the shadows seemed to be a woman. Yet, he dared not underestimate her, especially with a gun in her hand. I'm a resident from nearby. I ran out of food at home and came to the county town to find something to eat. The woman remained silent for a long time, seemingly assessing the truth of his words, or perhaps scrutinizing Zhao Yu. With her concealed in the darkness, Zhao Yu could only make out a silhouette and had no idea of her appearance or stature. What weapon do you have? The woman asked again. A handmade spear, an iron rod, and a machete. Zhao Yu replied without hesitation. Throw the things over there, further away. The woman tilted the muzzle of her gun and indicated a position. Zhao Yu was unsure of the woman's intentions, but did as instructed, setting aside the 3 weapons he carried. What a pity! If only one had a dagger. Zhao Yu sighed inwardly. These weapons were too conspicuous. Unlike a dagger, they couldn't be concealed for self-defense. Turn around, the woman insisted, making Zhao Yu turn on the spot. As he completed his 3rd rotation, she abruptly demanded, What have you got in your pockets? Zhao Yu, startled, replied, Nothing at all? Strip your clothes off. To his shock, she instructed him to disrobe right there. Here? He asked hesitantly. Quickly, she urged. Zhao Yu began by taking off his jacket, leaving just a vest, thinking that would suffice. However, the woman wasn't satisfied and commanded him to remove his vest as well. One more round. Bare-chested, Zhao Yu obeyed and spun again. By now, it was clear that she was ensuring he had no concealed weapons, though it was that the woman had remained stationary the entire time. Your pants. Zhao Yu stripped down to his underwear. I don't have to take this off, right? He asked nervously. Take it off. She was adamant. Is she worried I've concealed a grenade in there? Given the life-or-death situation, Zhao Yu had no choice. After undressing, he turned again. Suddenly, she clicked on a small flashlight. Zhao Yu shielded his eyes. Once adjusted, he finally got a good look at her. She was dressed in a black special combat suit on her upper body. The bottom, she had no lower body. To Zhao Yu's horror, the woman had lost everything below her waist, as though something had gnawed it off. A dark, dried bloodstain marked the spot where she sat. Judging from its state, it had been there for some time. How is she still alive in this condition? Zhao Yu noticed several high-end spray bottles next to her. A hemostatic spray? He had seen such a thing for sale at the settlement before. It was expensive, and though he had given it a cursory look, he had never bought one. Ever used a gun? Her sudden question left Zhao Yu slightly confused. He cleared his throat, replying, Which one are you referring to? The woman's expression froze. In the next second, Her eyes turned ruthless and commended. You want to die here, is it?
Fine.
Wait. I have. Zhao Yu threw caution to the wind and said with a deadpan expression. The woman nodded slightly and put the small flashlight to the side, illuminating herself. She then quickly ejected the magazine from her gun, showing Zhao Yu the bullets inside, before reloading it. See? It's loaded. Zhao Yu looked at her, puzzled. She hesitated for a moment and then said, Put your underwear back on. Without questioning, Zhao Yu complied. Once he was dressed, she said, Come here, carry me out. Where are we going? Zhao Yu seemed to have an idea of her intentions and asked curiously. From her appearance and the gear she had, it was clear that she wasn't an ordinary person, at least not from this region. Her equipment suggested she was a combatant from some significant team. Out of this tow, right? Do you know the way? Yes. Under her direction, Zhao Yu turned his back to her and slowly approached. As he bent down, the muzzle of her gun pressed against his head. Don't try anything funny. As long as you carry me out, I promise to let you go. Zhao Yu paused for a moment. What's in it for me? What do you want? In a situation like this, she hadn't expected him to ask for a reward. Weapon and food. Zhao Yu said earnestly. Surprisingly, she didn't refuse. After thinking for a moment, she agreed. All right. Relieved, Zhao Yu asked, Can I take some food from that shelf over there? No, she frowned. Once we're outside the town, I'll give you food. She added, I have other teammates. How can I trust you? Naturally, Zhao Yu was apprehensive, hoping she could offer a more reassuring solution. I'm from the Thorn Squad of Black Rock City. I won't deceive you. Black Rock City, Thorn Squad? Black Rock City and the Thorn Squad, which sounded like a game team's name. You've never heard of Black Rock City? The woman seemed surprised. No, never. Zhao Yu shook his head. Haven't you been to a nearby settlement? She asked with a frown. The closest one to my home was destroyed last month. Zhao Yu replied. The woman pondered for a moment. Blackwater City is a newly established settlement, the largest in this vicinity. Zhao Yu remembered something. Is there a Reed Corporation in Blackwater City? Yes, they have a branch there, providing up to Tier 4 tests and elixir. She replied impatiently. Why would a person from the Grand Black Rock City lie to you? Left with no choice, Zhao Yu ceased his questioning. Under her coercion, he bent down and she climbed onto his back. Move. Zhao Yu had assumed she'd be light, but her backpack seemed filled with heavy gear. Emerging from the internet cafe, he surveyed his surroundings. Everything was eerily quiet. All the mutated creatures and other threats seemed to have vanished. We need to hurry. It'll be dangerous if we delay, the woman urged. Understanding that she seemed to know something, Zhao Yu refrained from asking and hurriedly made his way out of the town. After they had traveled for several minutes, a buzzing sound began behind his ear. ZZZ. Thorn Squad. Can you hear me? A walkie-talkie? As Zhao Yu continued moving, the signal became clearer. Thorn Squad, report your status. Thorn Squad, only one remaining. Her voice sounded heavy, seemingly in grief over her fallen comrades. From the communication, Zhao Yu deduced the woman's codename was Rose. Rose, what about the mission? Is it complete? The team leader on the other end sounded anxious. A pained expression crossed Rose's face. The higher-ups only seemed to care about the completion of their tasks and not the welfare of their team. Mission accomplished. I'm injured. Please come get me and bring some food. She ended the communication. She tapped Zhao Yu's shoulder. That's enough. Put me down. Once she was on the ground, Rose said, My team will arrive soon by helicopter. They'll give you the food and weapons. Zhao Yu hesitated. It's all right. I can go back to the town to get some more supplies. I'd advise against it. There's going to be a riot in the town. Going back is suicide. Rose warned with evident knowledge. Zhao Yu didn't question further. Showing intent to leave, he said, Since I've delivered you safely, can I go now? You don't want the food and weapons anymore? Rose looked shocked, recalling his earlier demands. Zhao Yu remained silent, clearly reconsidering his choices. Zhao Yu was in a dilemma that he couldn't express. Initially, when he demanded things, He was to see if this woman had murderous intentions towards him and if she was planning to betray him after using him. Based on the results, he chose not to resist and safely carried her out. He even thought that he might really receive weapons and food. But from her conversation with Black Rock City, it became clear that her mission was of utmost importance, and the contents of her backpack were crucial. Because he wasn't sure of the importance of the contents, Zhao Yu was worried about staying around and being killed by those coming from Black Rock City. Rose seemed to understand Zhao Yu's concerns. After considering for a moment, she tossed her gun to him and also took out several compressed biscuits from her backpack, throwing them to him. "If you're too scared to take anything else, at least take these as payment," she said. "Aren't you afraid I'll kill you?" Rose chuckled. "Dare you?" Zhao Yu thanked her and then turned to run. After escaping for a while and maneuvering through the woods, he heard the sound of helicopter blades from the distance. Shortly after, 3 helicopters flew by. It seemed that Blackwater City was indeed a powerful entity, and whatever was in Rose's backpack was indeed valuable. He leaned against a tree, not daring to move, waiting for the helicopters to pass. After a few minutes, the helicopters returned the way they came, probably having picked up Rose. After confirming that all 3 helicopters were indeed retreating, Zhao Yu finally sighed in relief. He was afraid that 3 would come, but only 2 would leave, leaving 1 behind to deal with him. Fortunately, either Blackwater City didn't care about him, or Rose hadn't shared his details with them. After waiting a while longer, a loud roar suddenly erupted from the town. Mutated beasts? It was his first time witnessing such rage from the beasts. What had happened? He quickly connected the dots. It must have something to do with Rose's Thorn Squad. No one dares to challenge the fury of mutated beasts. Without a second thought, Zhao Yu sprinted at full speed. What would have been a 20-minute journey, he covered in just 5 minutes. Zhao Yu only relaxed a little when he entered the base. He sat on the ground and began to pant heavily. It wasn't until he entered the base that Zhao Yu finally felt a bit at ease. He sat down on the ground, catching his breath. After resting for a while, he started inspecting the gun. It was a standard pistol, much better than the homemade guns that were circulated in the settlement before. Moreover, considering its condition, it appeared to be newly manufactured. This indicated that the Black Rock City had a certain industrial system. There weren't many bullets, only 1 magazine, but it was certainly better than a machete. "It's a pity that I lost the machete too," he mused. Zhao Yu wasn't too upset. With this gun, he felt more secure. Plus, he had the compressed biscuits. If he ate them sparingly, they should last him a day or 2. Now, besides the compressed biscuits and the pistol, he was only left with his underwear. His body was grimy, especially his feet, which were utterly blackened. He went to the bathroom to take a shower. He initially wanted to do some exercises, but he decided against it, fearing it would drain too much of his energy. He could only lie in bed, trying to sleep by counting imaginary sheep while pondering the situation at Black Rock City. Lost in his thoughts, he eventually drifted off to sleep and woke up the next morning. The first thing he did was check the status of his technology points. As expected, he had accumulated the 100 points needed for the energy station, with an extra 2 points left over. Zhao Yu immediately stood up, excitement evident on his face. "Finally, I can build the energy station." Zhao Yu was about to head out to set up the energy station when he stopped short at the entrance, his eyes glued to the surveillance feed overhead. Outside the door, several mutants were wandering back and forth. He quickly retreated to the surveillance room. What he saw next gave him an even bigger shock. There were more than a dozen mutants, maybe even 20, surrounding his base. And this was only within the range of the surveillance cameras. There could be even more further away. What on earth is going on? He wondered, panic rising within him. He quickly thought back to the woman, Rose he had helped leave RHE City the previous day. What did she do? Thinking of the roaring from the mutated beasts in the city the night before, Zhao Yu realized that these mutants were probably sent by those very beasts. Can mutated beasts control mutants? He had heard of mutated beasts controlling irradiated beasts, but controlling mutants was new to him. But all this was beside the point. What bothered him the most was that these mutants outside prevented him from leaving his base. Just how many mutants are there in this city? He felt lost. His location was at least 4 to 5 kilometers away from the city. How could there be so many mutants covering such a distance? Especially since these mutants resembled humans, it was highly probable they had transformed from humans. Fortunately, the base was armored and had excellent soundproofing. The mutants outside were perhaps lingering due to the residual scent, but they didn't attack the base. For the next few hours, Zhao Yu constantly monitoring the situation outside through the surveillance cameras. After about 7 or 8 hours, RHE number of mutants outside began to decrease sharply. It seemed that the scent he left behind had finally dissipated, leading the mutants elsewhere. Daily mission refresh. I kill the mutated at this location. Reward, 30 technology points. Zhao Yu was excited about the refresh of the daily tasks, but the location this time was about 2 kilometers from the city, lying between his base and the city. This place, the mission won't be easy. Zhao Yu murmured, furrowing his brow. Given the mutants dispatched by the mutated beasts, the closer he got to the city, the denser the mutants were, and he might even encounter irradiated beasts. Moreover, there were still 4 or 5 mutants outside his door. Even if the daily task was refreshed, he couldn't go out and do it. Zhao Yu waited until deep into the night. Seeing that the mutants outside did not leave, he eventually went to bed with a heavy heart. When he woke up the next morning, he habitually checked his technology points. After a day of natural growth, it had reached 127 points. If I don't do the daily tasks and wait until tonight's refresh, won't I lose out on 30 technology points? He thought. Without even washing up, he quickly went to the surveillance room to check the situation outside. To his relief, the mutants had disappeared. That's some good news, he mused. Suppressing his excitement, he stayed in the surveillance room for another half hour. After confirmed that no new mutants had appeared in the surveillance footage, he finally let out a sigh of relief. He ate a pack of food with purified water. Feeling a bit energized, Zhao Yu then checked the condition of his gun and ammunition. He approached the base's entrance and ventured out carefully. All was quiet outside the factory. No mutants. They're finally gone. Zhao Yu quickly placed the energy station nearby his base. Whoosh! A slightly taller structure than the base sprouted from the ground. Meanwhile, Zhao Yu's mind refreshed with new building options. Training camp can train all types of troops. Technology points required for exchange, 100. Munitions factory can create all types of weapons. Technology points required for exchange, 2. Tank factory, able to manufacture all types of vehicles. Technology points required for exchange, 100. As he had previously notified by the system, once the energy station was built, new building options appeared. Training camp. Zhao Yu exclaimed in delight. No matter if it produced robots or biohumans, having them was much safer than taking risks himself. The training camp also needs 100 technology points. Checking his balance, 28 points was all he have now, including the 30 points from the daily tasks and the 30 points from the refreshed daily tasks in the evening. By night, he should be able to redeem the training camp after completing the tasks. I still have 2 daily tasks left. Taking a deep breath, Zhao Yu realized that he had to complete these 2 tasks. He immediately started walking towards the city. Following the mission map, the target mutants weren't on this road but on another side from his base. He hadn't been on that side before and had no idea what to expect. But even if it was dangerous ahead, he had to push through. After walking about 400 to 500 meters, Zhao Yu noticed something. Ahead of him, a mutant was guarding at the entrance of an abandoned small auto repair shop. Should I take a detour? With the gun in his hand, he worried that firing it might attract more mutants. Without much hesitation, Zhao Yu decided to take a detour. Whatever was in that auto repair shop that caught the mutant-s attention wasn't his concern right now. The mission was the priority. After taking a detour and spending some extra time, Zhao Yu finally arrived at the side road leading to the mission site. He found a strange landmark building after walking a while. A fortress. Zhao Yu was a little confused. How could there be a military defense unit in this county? He quickly flipped through the original owner's memories and really found relevant content. Fallout Shelter 12988? According to his memories, Zhao Yu learned some other information. After the outbreak of the nuclear war, It was not only the rich who were building underground shelters. Even some local units had raised funds to build larger underground shelters. The reason why Zhao Yu knew the number of this fallout shelter was that when it was being built, an official had approached him and asked if he wanted to join the alliance. They could give him 3 slots. However, Zhao Yu's self-built fallout shelter had already started construction and he had spent a lot of money, so he naturally rejected it. According to my memory, this fallout shelter should be able to accommodate 500 to 1,000 people. Zhao Yu flipped through his memories. Such a large fallout shelter would cost a lot of money. The cost was hundreds or thousands of times more than a small fallout shelter like his. It was difficult to build it with just a few rich people. It was said that in addition to the wealthy businessmen who joined, the local government also embezzled some other funds. Moreover, they didn't fulfill their promise at that time. They announced to the public that the fallout shelter hadn't been built yet, and they made a lot of noise on the internet to select the lucky ones who would be able to move in. However, the result was that a group of people moved in ahead of time. By the time the people knew, the entrance door of the fallout shelter had already been sealed. Zhao Yu turned around and climbed up a big tree to have a better view. He found that there were many tents around the bunker. He counted roughly. There were at least 800 if not 1,000, and many of them were already worn out. It was probably after the apocalypse that many people thought of this fallout shelter. They brought their families and camped here, hoping that the people inside would open the door. At that moment, the people in the tent were no longer there. Only a few mutants were swimming around in the tent. There are so many mutants. How is it just my mission? The mission only said to kill 1 mutant in this area, but it didn't say which one. Can I randomly just kill one? Even if he was enough to complete the mission, what about after that? If he attacked, the other mutants would hunt him down. Zhao Yu quickly counted and realized that there were at least 30 to 40 mutants in the field. With so many mutants around, even if he had a submachine gun instead of just a pistol, there's no way he could fend them all off. A faint sound of footsteps caught his attention. He turned to see a man and a woman clumsily trying to climb a tree not far from him, seemingly attempting to scout the fortress area, just as he had done. Upon closer observation, Zhao Yu noticed that they were unarmed, but each carried a backpack. He wondered what was inside. Their clothes, though relatively clean, bore some stains, indicating they might have fallen recently. After a moment of hesitation, Zhao Yu decided to approach them. By the time he descended the tree and reached the ground, the two hadn't even noticed him. They were still struggling to climb the tree. Zhao Yu intentionally made a noise and walked towards them. The pair looked startled and stopped their attempts, turning their gaze to Zhao Yu. The man pulled a baton from the side of his backpack. Is that a standard weapon? Zhao Yu squinted, speculating that they might be from a shelter. Who are you? He whispered, approaching them. Who are you? The man replied nervously. I'm a local. Zhao Yu responded, swinging his pistol casually. If one wanted to harm you, I would have shot you already. The two looked both fearful and somewhat reassured by his words. We are, the woman, who looked to be in her 20s, we're from a shelter. We came out to assess the situation. After some conversation, Zhao Yu finally understood. It turned out that their generators in the underground shelter had malfunctioned. The administration sent out people for 2 reasons: to gauge the surface situation and to find someone skilled in repairs. Zhao Yu realized that it was probably their first time outside the shelter. They likely had been inside for almost 2 years. Back then, although the world was in chaos, humans still dominated. Unlike now, where monsters had taken over. What has the world become now? There are monsters everywhere, the woman said, tears streaming down her face. There were 5 of us when we came out. Only the 2 of us remain now. Post-nuclear war, radio transmissions became erratic. It was understandable that they couldn't receive signals from the surface. Didn't 2 of you carry weapons when you left? Zhao Yu asked them, surprised. We did, the man said, pointing to the baton in his hand. Looking nervously at Zhao Yu's gun, the administration gave us this. In this underground fallout shelter, all weapons was under the administrator's control. These people were probably cannon fodder, or rather, the lower-class people in the fallout shelter. Even if they were sent out, they would only be given some useless weapons. Do you have anything to eat?
Yes.
They came out to recruit people because they considered that there might not be enough food on the ground. So they wanted to use food to exchange for talents. Who knew that it was simply as bad as hell? Is it the mutant blocked your way so you can't go back? Yes, this place is too terrifying. I want to go home. From their expressions, it could be seen that they did not want to stay on the ground for even a moment. How about this? Leave the food behind. I'll lure them away for you. All. The two of them were stunned for a moment, and then they revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. Are you serious? Of course. Zhao Yu nodded. Can I see what you have to eat? Yes, yes. The woman opened her backpack and showed it to Zhao Yu. There were various types of canned food, various compressed packaged food, and some mineral water. Yes, that's enough. You guys just stand here. Wait for me to lure them away. When the time comes, you guys run all the way back to your safe house. Understand? As he spoke, he reached out to take the backpack. How do we know that you won't leave us behind after taking the things? Zhao Yu smiled and raised the gun in his hand. Then I'll change my excuse. Hand over the food. As expected, the man didn't expect his natural worries to come true. The man in front of her really had no good intentions. She thought that she had met her savior. Who knew that it was a bad person? Looking at their performance, Zhao Yu was a little curious and asked, "How did you get the right to enter the fallout shelter?" My dad is a leader." The woman shrugged her shoulders. "Your father is the leader. Why did he send you out?" "My dad is dead. The management of the fallout shelter has changed." The new fallout shelter was a closed small society. After losing contact with the outside world, his original identity would naturally be invalid. It wouldn't be long before ambitious and powerful people would rise to the top. He took the two backpacks and shook them with his hands. Each of them weighed about 10 pounds. Zhao Yu thought for a moment and started to tidy up. He took out the water from his backpack and threw it on the ground. Then, he combined the food from the two backpacks into one backpack. This time, the weight was reduced by half. "Big brother, can you take us with you?" The woman saw that she could not do anything, so she simply began to seek shelter. "You don't want to go back?" "Yes." The woman blurted out and was a little confused. "Can I really go back?" "Depends on yourself." After Zhao Yu finished speaking, he put his backpack on his back and walked towards the fortress. The two people behind him were a little surprised. They had thought that they had been robbed, but from Zhao Yu's words, was he really going to fulfill his promise by luring the monsters away? How could there be such a good person in this post-apocalyptic world? The two of them were a little uncertain. They could only stay where they were and quietly waited for Zhao Yu. Zhao Yu left the forest. After walking for a while, he was about 100 meters away from the fortress. Finally, a mutant noticed him and rushed toward him. Bang! Zhao Yu directly chose to shoot. His marksmanship was not bad. Before entering the fallout shelter, he had gone to the shooting range to train. However, he was still a little far from the target. The shot didn't hit his head. It only hit his shoulder. Zhao Yu did not panic and pulled the trigger again. Bang! 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 3 more gunshots rang out, and the mutated monster that were charging towards him were all killed on the spot. At the same time, a system notification sounded in Zhao Yu's mind. Daily mission completed. Reward, 30 technology points. Zhao Yu could not care less about anything else. The moment he heard the notification, he turned around and ran. All the mutants near the bunker moved like dogs that smelled blood. They rushed toward Zhao Yu. "He actually helped us luring the monsters." The two people hiding in the forest were shocked when they saw this scene. Luring the mutants wasn't a genuine act of heroism on Zhao Yu's part. His task specifically required him to eliminate one of the mutants in the vicinity. Of course, Zhao Yu was quite confident in his own speed. Most mutants had physical abilities similar to ordinary humans, with their most distinct feature being their fearlessness in the face of death. Zhao Yu had taken a genetic enhancement elixir. Although it wasn't as powerful as the latest generation elixir mentioned by Meng Xian, it had significantly enhanced his physical capabilities. After about 10 minutes, Zhao Yu managed to shake off all the mutants and quickly entered his base. Phew! Taking a few deep breaths, Zhao Yu put down his backpack and swiftly moved to the monitoring room to check the situation outside. The silhouettes of mutants appeared near the base. They seemed to have lost track of Zhao Yu. After a few attempts at ramming the base's door, they began to wander aimlessly. Zhao Yu felt relieved. He figured if he waited a little longer, these mutants would disperse once they couldn't detect any new scent. Zhao Yu carefully organized its contents. The food he had would be enough to last him a week if he was frugal. A good haul. Zhao Yu grinned, feeling sweaty from the day's activities. He decided to take a shower. After showering, he noticed through the monitoring feed that the number of mutants outside had decreased. Aside from one persistent mutant still ramming the base's door, others were attracted by the noise, peeked to see if anything was amiss, and then wandered off. Keep knocking. Let's find out whether your head is harder or my door. Zhao Yu wasn't worried. The base had a sturdy steel, and with the mutants' flesh and blood bodies, they could hardly cause any substantial damage. With proper food, Zhao Yu didn't feel like munching on the biscuits. He had a hearty meal, and by evening, the daily tasks refreshed, and the mutants outside had long since dispersed. 66 tech points. Zhao Yu felt a surge of excitement. The daily task would grant another 30 points. This meant that in about 4 hours, he would again accumulate 100 tech points, enough to redeem a training camp. After checking the refreshed daily task location, Zhao Yu frowned. It's that even a place? Zhao Yu discovered that today's daily task refresh point was actually at the location of the mother-daughter refuge he had passed by earlier. Could it be that they didn't go looking for Ming Xian's protection? 11. Whether they went to find her or not didn't really matter as the decision was up to them. What made Zhao Yu hesitate was whether he should take on this task. Setting out from the base to that location would take over 6 hours. Half a day would be gone for round trip. If I don't do the task, 1 foot 11 inches have to wait until the day after tomorrow. After all, not only did the training camp require tech points for exchange, but subsequent munitions factory, tank factory, and many more buildings in RHE Future also needed tech points to unlock. He checked his ammunition. 7 bullets remained that should suffice. Zhao Yu emptied his backpack and only took water and dry food sufficient for a day. After double-check and decided his route, he set off once again. As soon as he walked out of the factory gate, a mutant from a distance spotted him and charged straight towards him. Zhao Yu drew out his pistol, yet after a while he turned around and ran away. With limited bullets, he decided it was best not to waste it other than critical situation. 6 hours of travel. Zhao Yu returned to the refuge he had passed by few days ago. From a distance, he indeed saw a mutant guarding the entrance. As for the mutant he had killed a few days ago, there was no trace left of its corpse. It had probably been eaten by wild animals. After observing for a while and not spotting any other mutants, Zhao Yu cautiously approached. Roar dash. The mutant charged towards Zhao Yu. Zhao Yu pulled the trigger when the distance between them closed to 3 or 4 meters.
Bang!
With a loud noise, RHE mutant fell to the ground. Daily task completed, reward of 30 tech points received. Zhao Yu walked around the mutant's corpse to the refuge's manhole cover and knocked gently, asking, "Is anyone inside?" 1. A faint voice came from below. "Is it the uncle from before?" Zhao Yu recognizing the voice of the little girl. "It's me. One saw a mutant guarding this place, but I've taken care of it." Click dash. The manhole cover opened, and the little girl crawled out. "Where's your mother?" Zhao Yu curiously asked why was she alone. "She's at Ming House Village." "Uncle, do you have any food?"
Yes.
Zhao Yu took out the food and handed it to her. The girl gobbled it down hungrily. "Why are you here if your mother is at Ming House Village?" After she had eaten enough to satisfy her hunger, Zhao Yu asked again. "I sneaked out myself." The girl replied somberly, "One wanted to come back and wait for my father." "So willful." Zhao Yu shook his head. Considering her young age, he didn't reprimand her but instead inquired about the situation at Ming House Village. Over 100 people have gathered there. Under the leadership of Master Ming, everything is orderly. Over 100 people? When he left, there were only about 10 people. How had so many gathered in such a short time? It seems many of them came from the previous Ming House Village. Some others are survivors from nearby. "Uncle, can you take me to the previous gathering place?" "Huh." Before my father disappeared, He said that he went to the colony to exchange for something, but he never came back after that. Want to go there and take a look? Zhao Yu was about to refuse, but another notification sounded in his mind. Urgent mission. Escort Nan Nan to the colony. Mission reward, 3A technology points. There was actually a mission? Zhao Yu hadn't expected that charting with others would lead to an urgent task. I have nothing else to offer as a reward, only myself. If you can escort me there, I'll give you my first time. Huh. Zhao Yu was looking at her in astonishment. He hadn't expected her to say such a thing. What nonsense are you talking about? You're just a kid and you. I'm not a kid. I'm 15 this year, Nan Nan interrupted Zhao Yu, puffing out her chest as she spoke. Do you think I'm a beast? Zhao Yu shook his head. Given how filial you are, 1 foot 11 inches escort you there. No reward necessary. Thank you, uncle. The joy on her face, Zhao Yu couldn't help but warned her. In RHE future, you shouldn't trust or make any promise to others so easily. She was lucky Aro have met him. Had it been someone else, who knows? After a brief rest, the two set off. About half an hour, a group of people hurriedly arrived. Nan Nan. Nan Nan. A woman in her 30s arrived at the refuge and immediately began calling out anxiously. Wait, I'll go down with you. Just as RHE woman was about to descend, another woman accompanying her and went into the refuge first. The others stood guard on the surface. This mutant here seems to have been killed recently. It was definitely killed today. Otherwise, an overnight corpse wouldn't be this intact. Several people outside the door were crouching next to the body of the mutant to search for evidence. A few minutes later, 2 people climbed out from the well. How is it? Nothing. The noble lady knelt down on the ground and began to sob loudly. Everyone looked at each other. The leading woman, namely Na, quickly stepped forward to comfort her. Don't panic just yet. Nan Nan might still be alive. According to the traces of the shelter, she was indeed lived here before. She must have left not long ago. Outside this shelter, there's a body of a strange mutant that died today. This means that after Nan Nan arrived at the shelter, she was trapped inside by the creature. Someone, or a group of people, passed by, killed the mutant, and rescued her. The noble lady suddenly said, It's not a rescue, it's abduction. My Nan Nan came here, surely waiting for her father to return. She wouldn't just leave easily. It must have been that group of people who deceived her, made her open the door, and then abducted her. The rest of the group felt her assumption made sense. The girl was so determined to wait for her father that she dared to sneak out and came back to the shelter alone. It's unreasonable for her to leave with strangers. Lina, who was one of the first follower of Mengxian, is a first-tier superhuman. After a brief thought, she quickly said, Check the surroundings for any traces. Someone found traces in a small grove. There are footprints here. They look fresh. Let's go, follow them. The group set off again, chasing in the direction Zhao Yu had left. Let me make this clear first. That gathering place has already been occupied by mutated beasts or human. When we get there, we will observe from a safe distance. Zhao Yu laid down the rules to Nan Nan. He was only responsible for taking her to find out about her father's situation. No matter what, they would leave immediately after without lingering. I understand. Just one look and I'll give up. Nan Nan seemed to understand that her father might already be dead, but she had always struggled to accept it. Zhao Yu shook his head and continued on the journey with her. After about an hour, they finally stopped outside a factory. This was an electric power plant that had been transformed into a gathering hub for trading. Solar power generation made it a rare place with electricity in the post-apocalyptic world. In the past, the factory had gathered many people. Over time, it became a settlement, attracting other survivors to trade. Unfortunately, a mutated beast occupied it last month, and the gathering hub was abandoned. At the outskirts of the power plant, Zhao Yu looked from afar several times but didn't spot the mutated beast. Is it not here? A month ago, when he had visited this plant, he had indeed seen the mutated beast from a distance. Given its size, it wasn't easy to hide. Or perhaps it was just passing by, and now it already left? He didn't dare to act rashly. Although he couldn't see the mutated beast, He could faintly spot shadows moving inside the power plant. Had the settlers returned? From such a distance, Zhao Yu couldn't make out the details of the shadows. Wait here for me. I'll take a closer look. Zhao Yu headed towards the power plant's main gate. Those shadows inside the power plant weren't living humans at all, but mutated human. Daddy dash. Nan Nan's voice rang out from behind. Zhao Yu saw a figure rushing into the power plant. Damn it. Zhao Yu quickly moved forward and grabbed Nan Nan. Look closely. Those things inside are no longer human being. They're all mutated human. Let me go. My dad is in there. Tears streamed down Nan Nan's face as she stared at the monstrous figures inside the power plant, her agony evident. She never expected that her reunion with her father would be under such circumstances. At the same time, a group of people arrived behind them. They saw Zhao Yu was holding Nan Nan back while the girl struggling desperately in his arms. Nan Nan, that's my Nan Nan. Save her. Please. The noblewoman recognized her immediately and urgently appealed to the leader of the group. You bastard. Li Na's eyes were filled with rage. Without hesitation, she raised her gun and fired. From a distance, Zhao Yu felt a danger from behind and instinctively dodged to the side.
Bang!
A flash of light followed by the sound of a gunshot passed him. Zhao Yu was not expecting someone to shoot him. He saw Nan Nan's mother was leading a group, each armed with firearms, and they were rapidly approaching with hostile intent. Damn, they have misunderstood me again? Zhao Yu quickly realized that his action of preventing Nan Nan from entering might have been misconstrued by the group as some harmful intent. He made a swift decision. Zhao Yu held Nan Nan as a human shield and raised his gun against her temple. Nobody move. Immediately, the charging crowd slowed their pace. Let her go. Stop. Anger was evident on the faces of the crowd. Several guns were pointed at Zhao Yu. If not for the fact that he had a hostage, they would have already fired. Li Na was assessing whether she could shoot and take down Zhao Yu in an instant. Zhao Yu bent down slightly, hid behind Nan Nan and shouted loudly, "Don't mess around with me or I'll shoot." Don't shoot. The noble lady rushed to the front and blocked the other people. Li Na noticed that Zhao Yu had dodged the gun at the beginning. Normal people would not be able to dodge bullets. The only explanation was that Zhao Yu was a perception-based enhancer. Zhao Yu, our leader kindly let you live, yet you still dare to commit crime? She was furious and shouted angrily. That shot had successfully disturbed the mutants in the power plant. He could hear at least 30 of them charging toward their direction. Zhao Yu quickly shifted his direction and took Nan Nan as a hostage before retreating to the other side. The rest of the people naturally wouldn't let it go, and they bit down on it from a distance of more than 20 meters. Boss, there are mutants behind us. As the positions of both parties changed, the people who followed them finally discovered the situation in the power plant. Everyone felt their scalps go numb when they saw the densely packed mutants. Zhao Yu, let her go and I'll spare your life.
Lina quickly shouted.
Zhao Yu did not respond and continued to search for an escape pathway. Soon, he retreated to a road outside the wall that bypassed the factory. There was a wall pier about half a meter high on the side of the road, which was perfect for avoiding bullets. Zhao Yu turned to look at the factory. The mutants were almost at the door. Shoot! Following the order, everyone picked up their guns and began firing at the mutants in the factory. Zhao Yu made a prompt decision. He quickly let go of Nan Nan and turned around to enter the bypass road. He leaned against the wall and fled quickly.
Bang! Bang!
2 bullets brushed past the wall. After Li Na fired 2 shots and it did not hit Zhao Yu. She did not pursue. She quickly came up to Nan Nan's side, carried her up and retreated. Plop, plop. At the entrance, the corpses of mutants fell to the ground one after another, including Nan Nan's father. Daddy! Tears streamed down Nan Nan's face, but she did not struggle to go over. Retreat. The mutants in the power plant were still rushing over. They couldn't stop them all. Immediately, the group split into 2 groups. One group fled with all their might, while the other group of 3 stayed behind to cover the rear. The chase lasted for about an hour before they finally got rid of them. The group fled back to the fallout shelter before and took a rest. Nan Nan, are you all right? It was only then that the noble lady rushed to Nan Nan's side and checked carefully to see if she was injured. It's a pity that Beast Zhao Yu got away. Mom, my dad is dead. I saw it. He has turned into a monster. The noble lady sighed deeply, obviously having seen the familiar figure lying at the entrance of the power plant. Mom, I don't have a dad anymore. Mother and daughter immediately embraced each other, crying uncontrollably. After a while, as their emotions slightly settled, Li Na began to figure things out with Nan Nan. What? You begged him to take you there? When the crowd heard that Nan Nan had requested with Zhao Yu to take her to find her father, they could not believe it.
Impossible.
I clearly saw you were struggling in his arms. Nan Nan apologized immediately. When I saw my dad, I lost control and wanted to rush in. He was trying to stop me. Everyone looked at each other in disbelief, finding it hard to trust their ears. It was clear they had misunderstood Zhao Yu. But if Zhao Yu didn't harm you, why did he take you hostage in the end? Li Na was still a bit puzzled about his action. Damn it, what's wrong with him? Attacked me without even knowing the truth. On the other side, Zhao Yu ran through the forest, cursing under his breath. If not for his latent skills that he had never shown, he would probably have been shot dead today. Upon seeing Nan Nan's mother and Meng Xian's people, Zhao Yu knew he wouldn't be able to explain himself in a short time. Recalling their first impression of him, Zhao Yu chose to use Nan Nan as a hostage. After all, they had fired the first shot. If he had passively surrendered, wouldn't he be leaving his fate in others' hands? That's why he made the decision to take Nan Nan as a hostage for his safety guarantee. If he had been mistakenly killed, all would be in vain. Even if Li Na apologized at his grave, what good would it do? He was already dead. Zhao Yu finally could relax when he passed the forest. Glancing at his tech point balance, a smile appeared on his face. Technology points, 139. The biggest part was the daily mission and the urgent mission, which provided a total of 60 technology points. With that, I have enough technology points now. I can finally create a training camp. After another 4 hours of traveling, Zhao Yu finally returned to the base. The training camp was set up next to the energy station. Do you wish to spend 100 technology points to exchange for a training camp?
Yes.
Ticked. Technology points, 43. A new building appeared in front of him. The training camp was 6 meters tall and covered an astonishing area. It was even larger than the base and the energy station combined. Zhao Yu didn't care about these details. He hurriedly walked in and checked the details of the training camp. Current trainable troops, mobilized soldiers. Strength, 5. Agility, 5. Stamina, 6. Weight, 66 kilograms. Height, 175 centimeters. Basic skills, basic firearms, basic combat skills. Exchange requirement, 1 technology point, 72 kilograms of flesh, 1 kilogram of cloth, 10 grams of gold, 100 grams of silver, 500 grams of copper. Note: mobilized soldiers have humanoid biological clones and their brains are controlled by chips. They will move according to their inherent instructions in areas without signal. Note: current base radiation range. Within this range, the commander could remotely give orders from within the base. If he wanted to expand the signal range, he could build a radar or signal car. Note: when the number of mobilized soldiers reaches 10, the option to exchange for land infantry will be activated. Conscripts. Excitement filled Zhao Yu's eyes. The establishment of the training camp meant he would transition from fighting alone to combat in groups. There would be conscripts, infantry, and potentially even more elite special forces in the future. The most urgent task at hand was to gather the necessary materials for the conscripts. 72 kilograms of flesh and blood can produce a 66-kilogram clone, with a possibility loss of 6 kilograms. To grams, grams of silver, 500 grams of copper. These are likely the materials needed for the chip. As for the 1 kilogram of fabric, Zhao Yu guessed it might be intended for the clothing. Zhao Yu examined the training camp in detail before heading back to the base. Having been out for almost a day, he was exhausted. After a brief wash-up, he went to bed. When he woke up again, his technology points had naturally increased to 50. This time, Zhao Yu left the base with his pistol and backpack. For the 72 kilograms of flesh and blood, he could only think of the mutants. As for gold, silver, and copper, they shouldn't be hard to find, as there are jewelry stores filled with them in the county town. In this post-apocalyptic world, the only tangible assets were food and weapons. Most transactions were based on bartering with these goods. Metals like gold, silver, and copper had lost their market value. However, some significant powers were still collecting them, albeit at very low prices. Zhao Yu headed back to the county town. After roaring for a day, the mutated beasts seemed to have fallen asleep. Without the mutated beast's control, the massive groups of mutants had dispersed and began wandering aimlessly. It meant he could sneak into the county town to search for various metals and fabrics. As for the mutants, he planned to deal with them after he had collected everything else. Upon reaching the outskirts of the county town, Zhao Yu didn't rush in. Instead, he began to recall his last visit, searching through his memories. Going frame by frame, he did find a jewelry store. It was a small store located at the corner of a roundabout, which he had caught a glimpse of in passing during his last visit. That's the one. This was the gold and silver jewelry shop closest to him. It was only 2 streets away from the city, so it was relatively safe. Zhao Yu climbed to the roof of a 2-story building nearby. He quietly stuck his head out and looked into the street. Zhao Yu quickly retracted his head and began to check his memories. 1, 2, 3. Using his memory to freeze the scene and count it a few times, Zhao Yu confirmed the number of mutants on the street. He saw a total of 19, which was more than he had imagined. It's not easy to pass through them in daylight. How about the roof? The house he was in was only connected to 3 or 4 other houses. Further in was a 5-story hotel. After a moment of consideration, it was more reliable to go on the roof than on the ground. Roar! A mutant seemed to have caught Zhao Yu's scent and began moving in his direction. Zhao Yu didn't dare to linger. He quickly got up and moved to the edge of a residential building, approaching the hotel. After a quick survey, he noticed a yard behind the hotel that seemed to be used for parking. There were several cars that had not been driven away. If there's a backyard, there must be a back door. Zhao Yu made his way down to the ground level beside the residential building, sneaked into the alley and climbed over a wall to enter the hotel's backyard. Zhao Yu found that the door to the hotel's backyard was locked. It has been closed for a long time. Zhao Yu approached the cars and tried the door handles one by one. To his surprise, he found an unlocked car door. As he bent down to inspect the interior, he spotted a metal ornament under the rearview mirror. It was shaped like a lucky cat. Is it made of gold? Zhao Yu quickly grabbed it. He noticed a black streak on the cat's paw. Upon rubbing it, he realized it wasn't dirt but rather paint that had chipped off. Zhao Yu confirmed that the ornament was made of copper. It should weigh around 100 to 200 grams. Zhao Yu placed the lucky cat into his backpack and continued to search the car. Under one of the seats, he amusingly found a pair of women's underwear. He glanced at the interior space. It was just a regular sedan with limited space, making him wonder about the car owner's choices. Zhao Yu searched around for an entrance, and he found a small door leading into the hotel. To his left was an out-of-service elevator, to his right was a staircase, and straight ahead was a corridor leading to the reception desk. Zhao Yu sneaked in slowly with caution. With no unusual sounds, he finally approached the reception area. He was drawn to a golden ox ornament on the desk. After inspecting it, he found it was another copper artifact and quickly stashed it in his backpack. Behind the reception desk, Zhao Yu found a box of keycards for all rooms. He quickly picked out a few cards with the label "cleaning" on them, returned to the staircase, and made his way to the second floor. Soon, he arrived at a door with the cleaning label. Zhao Yu tried several of the keycards on it. Out of power, he quickly realized that he had made a mistake. He reached out and tried to open the door handle, and the door opened directly. Zhao Yu was a little embarrassed. He subconsciously looked left and right and coughed. No one saw it anyway. When he entered the room, he saw a mountain of bedsheets and quilt covers. This should be enough. Zhao Yu didn't mind that the bedsheets were covered in dust. He only stopped after filling half of the bag. Zhao Yu went into a few more guest rooms and found that there was a copper ornament in each room, which he put into his backpack. With his backpack was almost full, Zhao Yu left with waning interest. Following the dusty map on the wall, he found the hotel restaurant. He searched in the dark for a few knives that he could use. He wrapped them with a cloth and fastened them to his waist. When he returned to the backyard, before he could think of a way to leave, a mutant was trying to break the gate. Damn it! Zhao Yu realized that he had been exposed and suddenly thought of something. He put down his backpack, took out a piece of bedsheet, twisted it into a rope, and came to the main door. Whoosh! Just as he expected, when he was near the door, the mutant's tail poked out to strike him. Zhao Yu raised his knife and chopped off the front end of the tail. Then, he reached out and grabbed the remaining part of the tail. He used the rope to wrap around the iron door a few times. Clang! Clang! The mutant kept flailing, baring its teeth and drooling. Zhao Yu heard other mutants approaching here too. He quickly picked up his backpack, climbed up the wall, and jumped into the alley.
Bang! Bang! Bang!
The sound of hitting on the iron door became louder and louder. Zhao Yu leaned against the wall and slowly came to the entrance of the alley. As expected, all the mutants that were wandering on the street were attracted by the sound and went to the back door of the hotel. Zhao Yu quickly went out, crossed the road, and ran in the direction of the gold shop. When he was crossing the road, he bumped into a mutant that had saw him and rushed over.
Young! Zhao Yu reacted fast.
He immediately charged forward with a kitchen knife. Before the mutant's claw hit him, Zhao Yu already separated its head and body with one full swing. Its muscles hung on its chest, and it moved forward 2 steps before falling to the ground. Bah! Zhao Yu spat out a mouthful of blood that had just splattered on his face. He looked down and saw that the blood was green in color and sticky like glue. He couldn't care less about his sorry state. He picked up his backpack and ran again. Zhao Yu had gone through another half of the street. When he passed a food city, 4 or 5 mutants walked out from the corner. Both sides stared at each other's. Zhao Yu instinctively reached for the handgun at his waist, wondering if he had enough bullets left to take down this group of mutants. Soon, he realized that the mutants in front of him continuing in the direction they had been going without attacking him. How is this possible? The scent? Zhao Yu realized that the mutants seemed to have lost their ability to judge through eyesight. The only way they could discern friend from foe was through smell. Perhaps, both hearing and vision were merely triggers, capable of attracting them. However, the decision to attack or not was solely based on scent. At this moment, Zhao Yu was covered in the green blood sprayed by the previous mutant, effectively masking his natural scent. So that's how it is. Zhao Yu had a feeling that he had gained a deeper understanding of the mutants. A smile spread across his face. After waiting for the group of mutants to move further away, he resumed his journey and smoothly reached his destination, the gold store. Upon entering, his heart sank. All the glass counters were shattered, and the gold and silver jewelry that was once displayed had disappeared. Zhao Yu made a round of the store but found nothing. Damn it, what a wasted trip. He noticed a room at the back of the store and pushed the door open. On the floor lay a highly decomposed corpse, its bones visible and covered in maggots. Instead of being repulsed, Zhao Yu's eyes suddenly noticed something else. On those skeletal fingers, there were glints of gold. 10 fingers adorned with 10 golden rings, and around the neck, 3 golden necklaces. Next to the corpse, an opaque black bag was open. He quickly approached it, and revealing a hint of gold shimmering from within. The bag was filled with gold and silver jewelry. Could it be that this person robbed the entire store and then got trapped here? Zhao Yu was unsure of how the man had died since the door he had entered through seemed unlocked. He glanced at the door and saw signs of tampering. The lock had been damaged. This indicated that scavengers had been here before, but they seemed to have ignored the gold. No major groups are collecting gold nearby. For ordinary scavengers, this stuff is just like junk that nobody would buy. Perhaps, right after the apocalypse began, some people collected gold and others traded food for gold. But as time went on, survivors found themselves with heaps of gold that couldn't even be traded for a morsel of food. It became worthless. Zhao Yu didn't want to delve into the story of the deceased. He picked up the black opaque bag and felt its weight, estimating it to be at least 2 or 3 gene, catty. After some thought, he removed the gold ornaments from the bones and put them in the bag. That should be enough. Zhao Yu recounted his spoils. Apart from the 72 kilograms of flesh needed to create a conscript, he had enough of other materials like cloth, gold, silver, and copper. In fact, he had more than required. Back on the main street, the mutants that had been drawn to the hotel backyard were wandering aimlessly again. Upon spotting Zhao Yu, they walked a few steps towards him, sniffing his scent. Seeing a clear path ahead, he couldn't resist and started running. His movement seemed to set off a chain reaction, with all the mutants chasing after him. Thrilling! Zhao Yu grinned mischievously and dashed away, leading a group of mutants out of town. Just as he was about to lose them, an idea struck him. He slowed down, allowing them to catch up a bit before speeding up again. After a few rounds of this game, only 7 or 8 mutants were still chasing him. As he was almost back at the base, Zhao Yu sprinted and lost the mutants in minutes. After returning to the base, he threw all his gains into the empty recycling furnace at the side of the training camp. Obtained 233 grams of gold. Obtained 881 grams of silver. Obtained 3,122 grams of copper. Obtained 4,238 grams of cloth. That's enough. Flash is all one need now. Zhao Yu left the base again. As soon as he left, he saw 2 mutants that were lost.
Bang! 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 Bang!
For gunshots were fired, and the last few bullets were used up, successfully obtaining 2 corpses. Zhao Yu quickly stepped forward and grabbed one of the mutants' legs with each hand. He dragged the 2 mutants' bodies and quickly retreated into the base. Before he entered the factory, he looked into the distance and saw another mutant that had heard the noise was charging towards here. Obtained 146 kilograms of flesh. Fortunately, the flesh of the 2 mutants met the requirements. At this point, all the materials needed to exchange for soldiers were gathered. Zhao Yu chose to exchange for it immediately. Do you wish to spend 2 technology points, 144 kilograms of flesh, 2 kilograms of cloth, 20 grams of gold, 200 grams of silver, and 1,000 grams of copper to train 2 soldiers? Yes, sir. Following the sound of a machine turning, the countdown to the mobilization training appeared on the control panel. Conscript in training, 0/2. Remaining time, 9 minutes and 59 seconds. 10 minutes. Zhao Yu looked at the time, and then at the surveillance camera. Outside the door, there were 3 or 4 mutants were wandering around. 5 minutes passed, and the training camp's interior resounded with a caw. A soldier in military uniform who looked no different from a human walked out. Soldier 001 is ready. Report to the commander.